deliver, meaning that we will deliver on how to strengthen our collective defense with higher readiness of our troops. We will deliver on stepping up the efforts to fight terrorism with a new training mission in Iraq and more support for the Afghan security forces. And we will also deliver when it comes to making sure that NATO always is fit for purpose by modernizing our command structure, establishing 2 new commands, one in Norfolk, Virginia, and one in Ulm in Germany. But perhaps most important, we will also deliver when it comes to burden sharing defense spending. Because after decades where allies were cutting defense budgets by hundreds of billions of dollar and euros, we have seen now that they are adding billions of euros to their adding to their defense budgets. So we see that last year we had the biggest increase in our defense spending across Europe and Canada in a generation. We see that all allies have started to increase defense spending, and based on the national plans we agreed to develop last year, we estimate that European allies and Canada will add 266 billion US dollars to their defense budgets from now until 2024. So we are moving in the right direction, and NATO, strong NATO, is important for Europe, but it's also important for the United States, and therefore it is important that we show that this summit, despite the differences on different issues, is able to agree and deliver on strengthening NATO as a cornerstone of transatlantic unity.
Sir, how confident are you the breakfast meeting with Trump?
Okay, sorry, I think.
How would you describe your breakfast meeting with Trump?
It was a meeting where President Trump and I addressed the topics we will discuss during our summit today. Of course, President Trump has a very direct language and message on defense spending, but fundamentally we all agree. All allies agree that we need fairer burden sharing in the alliance. And that's exactly why all allies agreed that those who are spending less than 2% have to spend more, and that's exactly what we have started to do. Because we have turned the corner after years of cutting defense budgets, all allies have now started to increase. And we had the biggest increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada last year. And more allies spent 2% of GDP on defense. So I expect open and frank discussions about defense spending during our summit, but I also expect that they will recommit to that allies have to spend more, and also that we will recognize the progress we have started to make on defense spending.
President Trump blew up the G7 summit in Canada at the last minute. How confident are you? Are you confident that he won't do the same here, and if so, why?
Also, I expect open and frank discussions, and there are disagreements on different issues. Some of them not directly related to NATO, like trade or climate change, but also some of them related to NATO, like, for instance, defense spending. But despite those disagreements, I expect that we will agree on the fundamentals, that we are stronger together than apart, that NATO has to be strong to protect all allies, and that we will deliver on strengthening our collective defense, meaning that US troops, Canadian troops, European troops are going to do more together, and that we are going to deliver, for instance, on stepping up the fight against terrorism with a new training mission in Iraq. So when it comes to substance, when it comes to the decisions we're going to make, I'm confident that we'll make good decisions showing that NATO is delivering.
Secretary General, President Trump said during the meeting that Germany will be totally controlled by Russia because of gas. First, you share this assessment. Second, please allow me a personal question. Did you feel comfortable? Because you seem to be comfortable.
First of all, in Germany, there are different views on the Nord Stream pipeline. I don't think that's well known. It's not for NATO to decide. This is a national decision. But NATO has, of course, addressed also energy security, because we understand there is a relationship between energy and security matters. We have highlighted the importance of diversification of supplies to make sure that our energy system are resilient. And I think also investments in renewables is actually decreasing the dependence on imported energy. But on the Nord Stream issue, there are different views, and I don't think it's not for NATO to solve that issue. It's something that is outside the NATO framework to address this. Well, I have met the President several times, and we are used to having open and frank and good and constructive discussions, and I think that's important for the alliance, that we can meet, discuss and address a lot of different issues. Sorry, I follow her. I think that representing 29 nations, I will not pick or any specific team I would like to see to win. My own home country, Norway, didn't qualify, so that's not a big challenge for me to, what I say, to decide which country I will support, since Norway is not represented.
Accept any peace deal with the Afghan government? And the second question is, what if, by any reason, the Afghan government could not hold the election on time? Would it affect your relation with Kabul?
The message to Taliban is that we will stay, we will continue to provide support for the Afghan National Security Forces. We are not in Afghanistan any longer in a combat mission. We are there in a mission to train, assist and advise the Afghan forces. Because we strongly believe that the best way to stabilize Afghanistan is to enable the Afghans themselves to stabilize their own country and to fight terrorism themselves. And therefore we continue to provide support, training and also funding for the Afghan National Security Forces. And the message to the Taliban is that they will not win on the battlefield. We will continue to support the Afghan security forces. They have to sit down at the negotiating table, and the message is that they will not win at the battlefield, therefore they will obtain more sitting down and negotiating with the Ghani government. And we welcome the initiative by the Ghani government to unconditioned peace talks. We welcome also the ceasefire we saw some weeks ago. Yeah. We have increased our military presence in the Baltic countries and Poland already. We have 4 battle groups, 1 in each of the Baltic countries and 1 in Poland. There is also some bilateral presence of the US. So this shows that NATO is adapting, that NATO is responding. We have the 4 battle groups, but we also have increased our ability to reinforce. So NATO deterrence and NATO defense is, of course, partly based on the forces we have already there, the national forces, the multinational NATO forces, but also on our ability to quickly move in more forces if needed. And that's exactly what we are addressing at this summit. We are increasing the readiness of our forces with what we call the Readiness Initiative. 30 new battalions, 30 new air squadrons, 30 battleships ready to move within 30 days or less, or to be used within 30 days or less. Military mobility and also the tripling of the size of the NATO response force, all of that is about our ability to move forces quickly across Europe if needed.
Question over here.
Canadian Prime Minister says we have new proposal to training to arrive these forces and Germania. Are you agreeing with him?
Yes, so I look forward to meeting Prime Minister Al-Badi. He will come to the summit, and also to meet, he will meet us at the meeting of the Global Coalition to defeat ISIS, which will be on the margins of our summit. and I expect that heads of state and government will agree to launch a training mission for Iraq, a NATO training mission for Iraq, where the plan is to train their forces, but also to establish military schools